What's up guys, welcome back to a brand new video. And as you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about what I believe the next Undisputed beta needs or what they should have in it. Now I get quite a few comments saying, you know, they listen to you bro, but I'm not quite arrogant enough to believe that Still City Interactive are listening to me and actually using them for ideas. Yes, they may listen to the community, but I'm not arrogant enough to believe that they come to my channel and they take my ideas and they use them. I'm not stupid enough to believe that. However, I do believe that if an overwhelming amount of us agree with one another as a community, we might be able to guide it and show what we as the players want, because that at the end of the day is what I am. I am a player. I'm a consumer of this game. I may make videos, but first and foremost, I'm a player and I'm someone who's excited for this game. Now, in terms of what I think they need for this second beta, I never actually made one of these for the first beta. I just kind of let it run its course because I really didn't know what to expect. But now we have a rough idea of what's going on. We know what things were removed, and I want to talk about three things here, three kind of categories here, and that is gameplay, fighters and modes. Without further ado, let's just jump into it. We're going to start with gameplay because that's obviously the key thing. Now we know they removed some things, and of course we want those things to be in this second beta. You know, we tested in my opinion, a good build of the game. You know, there was issues where it's like we had to kill our opponents just to rock them. I think there's some key things that we need to see right off the rip, which I'm sure you guys expected me to say this, is flash knockdowns, flash KOs, and flash stuns or rocks. Now, of course, this is going to be an even bigger balancing act. Day one, it could be too quick. Day one, it could be too slow. But we just need something like that. So if you are unloading, it gives, you know, it's that extra level of damage. If you're able to slip and rip to the body, you may stun the opponent, you may hurt them, they may hunch over. Or if, you know, their wing and hooks at you, pull back and crack them with a big two-piece, who knows, that could stun them, and that's what we want. That could even drop them if you're trading hooks. You see it all the time where two fighters trade those same hand hooks, and bang, and one tends to go down. You see it all the time, and that, I think, is going to add another level to the game. Now, in terms of punishment, we need to have players punished for being reckless when throwing and for lack of stamina. As I mentioned, 8 rounds over a fight for the first beta, and by the 8th round, I'd sometimes have my opponent on 10 or 15% stamina, but they knew there was no real punishment for that. They knew they could just go hell to leather for the entire 8th round, and then it would be the end of the fight. I think we need to see more punishment for that low stamina. I'm not saying low punishment equals a knockout, but I think it should maybe slow them down or make them more vulnerable to those bigger shots that they may eat, because they're going to be slower, they may need to cover up. And if they're just getting unloaded on, maybe it makes them more vulnerable to the bigger shots as they may be completely exhausted. Which brings me on to my next point and kind of a recap of all of these gameplay things. And this, I feel like pretty much everything I've said goes into one word, and that is vulnerability. We need to make sure that fighters are vulnerable when throwing, fighters are vulnerable when being reckless, fighters are vulnerable when hurt, low on stamina, short or long term, fighters are exhausted. We need to make sure that there is that vulnerability to encourage that smart shot selection, as well as, you know, smart head movement. If you know someone's unloading on your body, you may need to change the style you're playing at because you're not going to keep being able to eat those shots. But things like this are going to be a balancing act. It's going to be like this all through the betas, all through the early access. It's going to be up and down until they find that balance that they are happy with and we as players are happy with. Now let's talk fighters. As you guys know, we had Gatty, Ward, Alish and Harper. Now I actually preferred the Alish against Harper matchup, for the main reason that I found the Gatty Ward matchup to be very same. Gatty was clearly the faster fighter, Ward was the clearly better defensive stat fighter, but that for me was it. They had very similar styles, their stats weren't wildly far off other than speed and defense. They even shared an exact trait to one another. I just don't feel like they were the best fighters they could have chosen. I think it was great, but I still don't think those are the best fighters. Now for me, what I want a completely different opposite end of the spectrum fighters. Now, for example, I think two fighters that maybe have a difference in style completely, or even a style that just benefits one fighter and the second fighter is always at a disadvantage. That makes it fun in my opinion. Or even two fighters that have massive differences in perhaps height or power or range. Maybe like Fury versus Frazier, or Joyce versus Wilder, or even like Crawford versus Porter. Porter is more of a smother fighter. Crawford's going to have that switch stance ability. I just want to see a difference in style, as I want to see people pushed to a style and see what happens when people can't fight their fights. You know, how do we adapt as players? I feel like we need to experience that before we go into early access. If we are doing Fury and Frazier. Now, of course, that is almost a foot in height to overcome, so I understand that in terms of fighting as well as programming, that could be issues, but just humour me for a moment. If you're Fury and you're jabbing, you're jabbing, you're jabbing, you're jabbing, 8 rounds, you win, okay, you know the key. And if you're that Frazier player, you need to figure that out. You need to figure out how to cut off the ring, how to avoid that jab, slip, and move in. Get on the inside, bang, bang. And then you're that Fury player. How are you going to be able to fight against an inside brawling Frazier who's cracking you with big body shots up to the head? But of course, I don't know how the height is going to be. Our fighters, have they got that programmed right? That is a tough one to get because, it's like there's such a huge height difference, especially with the lack of tracking. That does obviously warrant some issues there, but that's what I mean by a difference of style. Joe Joyce and Wilder, you've got Wilder that has that bomb, and then you've got Joyce, the awkward fighter that has a gas tank for days, who can just keep popping out his awkward jab, but he can also load up with some good shots. I think, complementary styles in opposites of one another. So I'd like to see 4 different fighters. I wouldn't mind seeing Sophie Alish and Harper again, to be honest, but I would like to see, if they go for 4, there's no guarantee they will, but if they do go for 4, I'd like to see 4 completely different styles, or 4 fighters all in one weight class. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'd be happy with that. If they go for like middleweight, you can put Roy Jones, Nigel Benn, Carl Froch, Canelo. You've got your counter punches. You can fight off the back foot with a couple of those guys. You can be more flashy and showboat with some of those guys. You've got some good power. You've got some good chins in there. I think that would be a good variety. But let me know your thoughts. And then finally, modes. Now, I'm not going to say, for the beta, they should give us the full career mode. I'm not obviously going to say that. However, it's almost a given that it's going to be an online beta test. It's going to be a stress test for the servers again. So, of course, multiplayer is a given. The standard, what we had, multiplayer / ranked, where we pick our fighters and then we go into the game, is obviously a given. But on top of that, I would like to see an invite friends for this beta. I want to be able to play with my friends that have been lucky enough to get the beta. I want to be able to play with you guys. If you're on PC, there were so many people that said, Study, can't wait to see you in there. And I just didn't get to fight any of you. And I'd love to be able to do that. That's one thing that I'd like for the multiplayer aspect. But with the multiplayer aspect to one side for now, I'd honestly like to see some offline. Now, while I want to say a full offline would be good, I don't see it likely. However, I think it would be good to see a limited tutorial, or maybe even an offline single player without AI. You just pick a fighter and shadowbox so you get used to the game before you jump online. As I'm honestly not sure if they would do another beta and add a full offline against AI, as I could see a good 50% of the player base not touching the online if they offer the offline against the AI there. As well as it wouldn't be a great second beta test in terms of servers, but I would honestly prefer a bit of offline, just like some shadow boxing in the ring by yourself, because like I said, once they add an AI, I think they're going to lose a good 40 to 60% of their players who just aren't going to touch the online for the beta. They're just going to stick to offline. But that would be my preference in terms of a realistic standpoint. I know people are going to say, I want to have online, I want to have 10 fighters, I want to have a full offline against a fully smart AI in the beta. It's like, it's just not going to help them test the things they want to test. But if they do all that, then awesome. I get a variety of stuff we get to play. But I don't see that happening, in all honesty. I see maybe if they do offline, it's a tutorial that you can choose to do every time you load up the game. Or it is like a single player shadow boxing where you're just in the ring by yourself, getting used to it. And the game maybe gives you some prompts on how to throw certain punches. And how to throw certain punches at certain angles and so on and so forth. But we don't know when we're going to get any information on this beta. I would imagine in terms of getting the dates for the beta, we'll probably get that around the very end of November, if not the very start of December. And the beta will take place in the first or second week of December. But that is just my guess. Like I said, I didn't make one of these for the first beta because I didn't know what to expect. But now so many of us have been hands-on. It was so much fun. I thought I'd talk about this because one of the biggest things I want to talk about was the fighters. But I thought we'll talk about the whole beta and what I'd like to see. But anyways, thank you as always for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts, of course, in the comments down below. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.